Hi everyone, welcome to the Fans POV from Katsucon 2013. I'm Chrissy Lawler, and with me is voice actor Steve Blum.
Hi.
Thank you, Steve, for having this interview with us.
Thank you for having me.
One question I know is is this your first Katsucon?
It is my first. I am a Katsucon virgin.
Ooh.
Recently deflowered.
How are you liking Katsucon so far?
It's awesome. It's really awesome. Yeah. People here are great. I haven't been back in the DC area since 2009.
Oh, okay.
And so it's really nice to be back.
Wow. Well, we're glad you're here.
Thank you.
Do you do a lot of conventions?
I do a lot of conventions, yeah. Yeah, probably more than I should. No, I try to do probably 10 to 12 a year.
Oh,
so,
okay, okay.
Yeah.
That is quite a lot. But you have a lot of followers who follow you around.
Yeah, well, I like to get out there with the fans and say hello. And, you know, a lot of people are used to hearing my voice, but they have no idea about the person behind. And, you know, so I want to get out there, and they're the reason I have a job. So you guys are the reason I have a job, so thank you.
Well, we're glad you're doing what you do. You do a lot of voice acting, both anime and video games.
Yes.
Is there anyone particular you'd like doing more, whether anime or video?
No, I like them for different reasons. Anime is where I started, so that always feels like home. And I like the technical aspect of, you know, trying to match something that has been done before and hopefully make it palatable for a non-Japanese speaking audience. And I love the anime community. The people that work in anime are spectacular people. And but video games and American animation, there's a lot of that same mentality where people are really out to support each other rather than tear each other down, which is the prevailing attitude in most of entertainment. So I don't really have a preference one for the other. You know, they're just different animals with a lot of the same fun stuff. It's still acting. It's all still acting.
True, very true. You've done so many parts. Is there any particular parts that you've ever looked back and went, no, can we do that again? Or why did I do that?
Earlier on in my career, I had thoughts like that. At this point, I kind of look at it as my video diary, you know, my biography, because that's where I was at that time. That's what I was capable of doing at that time, and somebody hired me because they thought I was right for the part. So I really make great efforts not to be too judgmental on myself or others. And so I can look back at stuff at this point in my life and just enjoy it for what it was.
Oh, that's good. Has there ever been a part where you went, that was such a great part, can you make more so I can keep doing this part?
Yeah, like every show I work on. Oh, Bebop being one of them. I mean, oh man.
You would be the only one.
Oh, so hard to let that go. It was really hard to let that go. I was really falling in love with the show once I really started understanding what it was and seeing it as it was put together. So I really didn't see the final stuff until I was working on like the Bebop movie and things, and I started seeing clips of the music and just the whole feel of the show is so amazing. But that's happened with so many of my shows. I've had that kind of career where I'll work on a show that goes for 1 season or 2 seasons and then it gets canceled, and so it's constantly births and deaths for me.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Speaking of Bebop, this is one question one of our staffers actually had to ask. How often do you get asked to do Spike, and is it getting tiring at all?
It never gets tiring, and it is often. But no, I love doing Spike. I mean, he's probably the closest character to my natural speaking voice. Either he or Tom from Toonami. That's kind of right in my wheelhouse. So there's really no effort that I need to exert to do those characters vocally. And it was such a huge benchmark in my life that I hold it in great reverence, to the point where I actually got a tattoo. I mean, that's Spike's voice right there, saying "bang" at the end of the series.
That's pretty cool.
I just took it from YouTube, stuck it in my computer, and took it to my tattoo guy. So he's part of me forever. And so I'm so grateful for the work on that show, because it really opened up so many doors in this career that I never thought I'd have.
That's pretty cool. Going back to video games, you recently were awarded, inducted into the Guinness Book World Records as most prolific voice actor in video games.
Yes.
What was your reaction when you were like, oh, here you go?
It wasn't quite that simple. At first, when I was contacted about it, I kind of went, what? You sure you have the right guy? Because I don't keep track of that stuff. I had no idea. I thought that there were other people who do far more games than I do. And I just don't pay attention to that. And most of the games that I work on, I sign a non-disclosure agreement, so they go by an alternate title. And since I'm not a gamer, I never know what the final game title is. And that is the case on many of the games that I worked on. So we actually had to do some research. We actually had to give them a list of stuff that I could validate that I had performed in. And that took about a month to do. My agent and I kind of poured through IMDb, and it was kind of an arduous process to get through all that stuff. And then once we did, we identified, I think, 260 something games, 261, 262, and they contacted me from the UK. The guys were coming out for E3 for a convention, and they wanted to do it at the convention. I couldn't even get a pass into the convention because it's mostly for industry people. Yeah. And I'm not that part of the industry, so we had to find another place to do it. And we ended up Nickelodeon. I was working on Legend of Korra at the time. I was doing a session as Amon, and they were kind enough to say, yes, you can use the studio, and they were going to go into the studio, and they were going to do the presentation and film it inside the Nickelodeon studio, and I thought that was really cool. And we get there, and we're sitting in the lobby, and they have this, they actually put up on these electronic billboards they had the full-length image of Amon, and it was, it seemed like it was going to be a really kind of spectacular thing. Ended up, they were running an hour and a half behind. So we sat in the lobby, and finally the guys got up and said, well, I got to go. On behalf of the Guinness Book of World Records, here you go. And he pulls it out, and he had to leave. So it was sort of anticlimactic, but really exciting at the same time. I never thought I'd get a world record for anything. As a little kid, I tried to do it for hopscotch, so that didn't work out.
Yeah, that's usually the goal, is something like that. And then you're like, once you get older, it's like, that's
not
really
spitting
the goal
as far as I can.
Right now,
something.
Work.
Yeah, and I don't do it for that reason. I never did it for the fame or the fortune. I just did it because I love to do it. So it was a happy surprise.
Okay. Well, this year with the convention, we happen to be sharing a space. We were sharing space with another group. It has happened in the past where there have been problems mixed. Do you think it's a good idea for such a big, interesting community to just maybe sometimes share spaces with, say, like a religious group or a group of activists?
Well, I can actually speak to that from both sides, because I was raised in a Jewish home, and I actually belong to youth groups, and the organization that here is a Jewish youth group, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, and so just as from the perspective of a kid who went through that, I would have been thrilled to see this happening and fascinated. It might have been distracting from what I was there to do, so it would be, I think, a more interesting question to ask from their perspective, because here we're just kind of going, having a great time,
Basically.
But they're actually working on some deep issues and things, so I love the crossover, honestly, and I'm a very spiritually oriented sort of person anyway. I try to inject that in everything that I do, so when the twain meet, I think it's a great thing. With any religion, yeah.
It's always a good learning experience.
Absolutely, yeah. I hope that they still had a great experience here after we trashed the place.
Well, we've got a few random questions from some of our fans. One question is as soon as we saw this one, we knew it was for you. Do you think that The Legend of Korra is considered an anime, even though it's more American?
Well, I mean, there are people who are going to stick to the traditional description of what an anime is, which I would, from my understanding, is something that is absolutely Japanese in origin, which it is not, but it certainly borrows from tradition and it's a beautiful homage to Asian culture, I think. So I think it's, I don't know, I don't like to classify things anyway, so I would let it sort of define itself.
I do know that some fans, when Avatar first came out, they almost made it like an honorary anime.
Yeah.
A lot of people who were like, no, this is anime, they were like, okay, this is a gray area, so we'll take it.
I would say it's wonderful that it has that crossover, that it really brought some people into taking a look at anime that may not have otherwise. And it's such a magnificently executed show, too, that it's a great gateway show, I think.
Are there any, like, besides, with the video games and anime, is there anything other that you would love to do with as a career life in your life?
Well, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up, and I didn't know I wanted to do this full time until I was 40 years old. So I'm open to a lot of different things. I used to play music, and I tried to do something in the music business end of it, and it was heartbreaking. It's just ugly. And so at this point in my life, I started picking up my guitars again a little bit, and I started playing again a little bit, and I don't think I'll ever pursue that as a career. I was never very good, and it really takes so much diligence, practicing and attention to that I don't think that I would ever get to that level, and I don't really care to necessarily. I'm good at this. This is what I was put here to do. So, at this point, I just want to take what I've been able to do and do some good with it. I want to help other people along on their path, and I want to put good out into the world and try to give back some. So, and just keep working. I hope I'm doing voiceover till I croak,
Okay, well,
and beyond.
Question. Go on. It's like will you keep doing this for a while?
Oh yeah, I mean, I worked with Stan Lee recently, and Stan's getting up there in years, and he's a kid. He walks in that booth, and he may look like he's an older man, but inside he's an 8-year-old. He's jumping around in the room, and he stands the whole time, and he comes up with these magnificent performances, and he behaves in his mind. He's a little kid, and he still remembers how to play. And if I can do that until the day this body fails, I'm a happy guy.
Cool. Is there anyone in any genre, whether it would be the music or acting or something, is there anybody you ever want to work with?
I've worked with so many of them now. You know, I'm really, really lucky. Well, Frank Welker was a huge bucket list guy, and I have gotten to work with Frank. I'm still working with him on Transformers. He's amazing. He's probably the #1 on my list. But there are a lot of other actors. Most recently, Jim Carrey. I love his work. I think he's a fascinating actor and human being, and I've gotten to see the other side of him, the human side that a lot of people don't pay attention to, where he's really interested in transforming the industry and putting out positive, powerful messages for human evolvement. And if that's even a word, and evolution, human evolution. Sorry, I'm tired. Evolvement. I've just coined that now. Yeah. But people of that ilk, I think Jim has recently just gained my attention. He's one of the founders of an organization called GATE, where they're working on transformative entertainment, and that's something I'm really getting into now, into meditation, just getting still and finding what's real. And you know, I will still continue to do Call of Duty and splatter zombies and all that stuff, and that certainly has its place. But I'd like to get more involved in that sort of work too. So to actually work side by side with him, whether it's a goofy thing or not, I don't care. I'm just fascinated by him.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We have one last question. Well, it's more like you have one last question. We always get our questions from our fans. But we like to give our guests a chance to ask the fans a question.
Oh.
Is there anything you would like to ask your fans out there?
Wow, that's a big question. Wow, I wouldn't even know what to ask. Well, here's a question. What do you want? Think about that and use that in your life. That's kind of a bigger picture sort of thing, but that was a question that somebody asked me a long time ago. They said, what do you really want? And forget all of the materialistic things that you've ever thought about, the car, or more money, or all that stuff. What do you really want out of your life? And so that is the question I would pose to you guys, is what do you want? And does what you're doing right now make you happy?
That is a very interesting one. We never really had one like that.
Okay,
it's
well, good.
Something to think about.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No problem. We're the ones that got to see you.
Nice.
I didn't actually expect this.
Okay, great.
All right, guys. We'll have the show later for you. See you around.
Bang.
First earning.